weeks now, so excuse my scads of notes here. I don't want to forget anything. Also with me today in the back is May Nachman. She's the Director of Community Impact at United Way and on camera duty, so thank you. And Darla Panaski, she's the Elementary Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator with the Stevens Point School District. She's going to provide us some specific strategies a little bit later. I just had a few quick reminders to make sure you sign in the back, grab your name tags, which I forgot today. And if you'd like to take a United Way bag, such as these blue and black ones, please do so. And if we run out, I can always get you one later. Let's see. Darla is gonna talk in a little bit about specific strategies, like I mentioned, and activities that would be helpful to use for second and third grade learners. She will reference a few items that are in these binders that are on your tables. Those are just examples. They're not for you to write in. They're gonna be in the classrooms with the kids that you're gonna work with. So, let's see. She's going to go through a slideshow, and she's going to make that available to send out to all of you. If you are interested, you can just let me know, and I can email that information to you. And then when Darla is finished, I'm going to provide you with some general logistics of the program and kind of walk you through what a typical tutoring session will look like, and you can ask any questions that you have at that point. And we'll kind of go through more of the specifics in the binder and the training manual together. So, and as we go, just feel free to ask questions and offer comments. That's what kind of makes today fun. So, without further ado, here is Darla. I will happily give her the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. How many of you are returning tutors? I know we've been off for a couple of years, but veteran Learn for Life tutors. That's great. How many of you are, this is my first go around? Yay! Welcome, thank you so much. Those of you that are veterans, as I'm going through and going through some of these strategies, feel free to chime in and share with the group what's worked for you. Anybody that has questions, please don't wait until the end to ask them. Just stop me and ask them as we're going along. Okay? Just a little bit about myself. I see a few friendly faces. I have been in the district this is my 23rd year in the district. 16 of those years were at Roosevelt Elementary in second and third grade. And when this program first started, I was one of the pilot teachers. And so this program is very near and dear to my heart. I love it. And I'm so thankful that our room is full of volunteers today. This is my 7th year in this position as Elementary Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator. I'm also one of the 3 people that are basically mentoring our brand new teachers and helping them get their start in our district. So it's another one of my roles. So let's get started. I love this quote by Winston Churchill: "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So I wanted to just start out with that. The 2 areas of reading that you're going to be focusing on, or the teacher's going to be asking you to help the students with, is comprehension and fluency. And so I'm going to just go through a little bit about what that looks like, what does that mean, some of the questions that you can be asking, and some of the little tricks that you can use as you're working with that student, as you're listening, if they get stuck, or if they're asking for help. One of the things that we do for comprehension is monitoring for meaning. And so a lot of times, students at this age, it's a rite of passage to be in a chapter book. But sometimes it's not like, sometimes we get those students that can read words, they have no idea what they're reading. It'd be like me reading an advanced chemistry book. I would be like, yeah, I can read those words, but I have no idea what they're talking about. A simple user manual, right? That you get with your with your items that you buy. So one of the things that if you're noticing that noticing students as they're reading, if they're just reading over words, and you're noticing, wow, they're not as accurate as and it's really going to mess with their comprehension. You can ask, does that look right? You can definitely stop them and ask them, is what you said, and you repeat that word, does it match the letters in this word? For fluency, is that the way we talk? If a student is reading really choppy, is that how you talk? And does it sound like a book? Does it make sense? One of the things that more for second graders, let's check the picture if they get stuck on a word. Just a strategy that I like to share for readers that are choppy and you're working on fluency with those readers. You can have students use their pointer fingers and group 2 or 3 words together to practice phrasing. One of the things that if you're working on fluency with these kiddos is they like to just fly past that punctuation mark. And so reminding them that that's a pause, we need to stop, that kind of thing. Because in students' minds, if I'm a really fast reader, I'm a really good reader, okay? Supporting comprehension, one of the best ways to do that is have a student read a page to you and then have them stop and cover the page and paraphrase. Think about what you just read and then tell me in a couple of sentences what's going on. What's that main idea? What's happening right there in that page? And I just always get ahead of myself on these. One of the things that for comprehension that is difficult for second and third graders is that retell. And for retelling, you have those students that will give you 5 words, and you'll have students that give you a novel, they're basically retelling the entire story. So we try to balance and get a happy medium. So we really you'll be working a lot with students on that retelling piece. These comprehension cards are in that binder that Abby was talking about, and they're 2 that most students will already know how to use. The BME, the beginning and the middle and the end, you won't have to have the students write this, but you can definitely, this is a really great tool to use in a retell. If you ask a student, okay, so what happened in that? Let's talk about what's happened so far. And they're like, I don't remember, or I don't know. So you can definitely say, okay, at the beginning and in the middle of this chapter, this is what happened, and this is what happened at the end of that chapter, or that part of the story. Obviously, if it's a nonfiction book, this isn't going to work. You're just going to be basically asking them for retell. What I like to do is just ask them, tell me 3 things that you just read about. I learned the hard way when I used to be in the classroom and I would ask students, so tell me 3 things that you learned. What do you think they replied to I didn't learn anything new. So it's tell me 3 things that you read about. Or even just 1 for now. The 5-finger retell really helps with those story elements, character setting, problem, events, and ending. A lot of times, especially if it's a chapter book, this isn't going to work because you're not, probably in that 30 minutes, you're not going to get through the entire book, okay? You can definitely still go over what they read, who are those main characters, and what does that setting look like in your head? Promoting oral language. If possible, and try to just in the back of your head, back of your mind, try to have students answer incomplete sentences. When I first put this on there, all I could think about is being at the old time school, and where they make you stand up and really be a complete sentence. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But if a student answers, like if you ask them a question, like, how did you feel about that? Or what did you think about Sally losing her necklace? And they, well, I don't know, it was, I guess, sad. Try to, let's reword that into a sentence. And you could definitely model for that, like what it would sound like. Sometimes, not a lot, but you may be asked to help, you may be asked to have a student, or a student might be asked to write like their answers or do some writing. It doesn't happen very often, but I wanted to include this in case it did come up. A lot of times teachers will ask students to put their words in writing because that's where they need the most practice. One of the things that I just wanted to go over is by first grade, there shouldn't be, so it'd be you're dealing with second and third grade students. So by now, the only capitals you should see are the word I and beginning of sentences. Some classes, some teachers will have non-negotiables that they've discussed and created with their class. So if you sit down with that student and you look at the plan and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're supposed to be writing, go ahead and do that. But then maybe write a note or be able to ask the teacher, I noticed that you wanted the student to be doing some writing. Are there some things that I should be focusing on? Are there some non-negotiables for your class? Just a few strategies. Writing big words, you can clap or tap the syllables. Start with the beginning sound. Let's think of word chunks. The most important thing is for students to get their thoughts down on paper. Most of the time, if they're struggling writers, that's kind of their writer's block, is that they just can't get their thoughts down on paper. A strategy that I have used a lot is I will make like a cartoon frame and have them just write us beginning, middle, end, 3 frames, like what happened at the beginning, let's write real quick. And then they can do a quick sketch. I would have them write first before they do the quick sketch, or they're gonna spend all of their time drawing. So beginning and middle and end, just like I just explained. That's a really good way to get them to, it's a fun way to get them to write. And that's about all I have for different strategies. I know those of you that have done this before, what am I missing? Are there tips that you can share?
I have a question.
Sure.
When they're trying to sound out words, before we were taught phonetically, but they don't really teach them that way anymore. So I always struggled with how do I get them to, be able to, when they're struggling with a word, not to be like, eight, or something like that.
You can stretch that word out, but if it's a word like night, where you have that silent GH, I would just point that out. That there's a lot of words in our English language that aren't rule followers. This is one of them. That GH is silent. Definitely, stop them and have that conversation. So yeah, I would ask them, take a look at the beginning sound, the ending sound. Let's look at the middle, but just kind of talk them through that. Okay. Yes.
You were using praising scaffolding and structure a lot. I'm not sure I'm quite following you. Is that something that they're being taught about a building block of comprehension, or what do you mean by that exactly?
Just with that scaffolding, a lot of, with that comprehension, what they struggle the most with will be that retail. And so scaffolding that, instead of, like if you would say to them, like, tell me what happened in the story, you're gonna get this blank look on their face, like they don't know where to start. So then you can help them out. That scaffolding is just like breaking those pieces apart. So let's talk about the beginning. So think about what happened at the beginning of this, and then just kind of talk them through that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had a teacher that wanted the writing, and she included sheets. Because
Okay.
they actually had the questions that were included, so that was very helpful.
That is helpful.
Yeah, I don't know if other teachers do that.
And I know that it's different at every building, how teachers will help support that. So one of the things that I shared with the group on Tuesday was the fact that when you first get there, like your first day, kids are gonna be probably, not all of them, kind of shy and reluctant to, even just to talk. But if that first time that you're with them, if you don't even get hardly any reading done, that's okay. Because the most important thing is to establish that relationship and to, get that started. I had a little guy in my third grade class that he really didn't want to go with the tutor. And he wasn't getting support at home. And that was one of the reasons why I chose him to be one of the readers, is because he just needed that constant, he needed to be reading. And so when his tutor found out that he liked dogs, that he couldn't have dogs at his house because somebody was allergic, she had dogs. And so she, just by talking with him and asking him, what do you like and what do you do when you're not at school and things like that, found out that he really likes dogs. So she would always come, and he knew that they were going to start their time out by looking at the latest pictures on her phone of her dogs. And so it took, 1 minute to take a look at, hey, here's some new pictures of my puppies. He was very eager to go, and it was that carrot, I'll show you more once we get done with, we get through our reading, then we can do that at the end. Another dangling carrot that you can use, you'll find out, like if they like certain things, like I have, I would have students that would love to draw. And so then I would I would tell the tutors, like, yes, you can take 5 minutes of your time and let them draw. And you could draw about the story, you could draw, or just let them draw. It's totally okay. It's also fine if you make a deal with them and say, hey, if I read this page, if I read a page and you read a page, or I'll read this much and you read this much, that is okay. There might be a time where they're just not having it and they're not wanting to read, and you're like, okay, I will read it and then you can read it after me, or you can just read it. It's still really good for them to hear adults read. So even just having that connection. Abby's going to go through kind of the logistics of what that looks like, but there is a communication piece that you have that'll be in that binder for for you and the teacher. Or most of the time you can always just tell the teacher that you need a couple minutes, and they'll be happy to answer your questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes.
Will we have the same child?
Yes. Yes. So how that works is that you're slated to be there for an hour. So you're going to have one student for 30 minutes. And they're going to go back, and another student for 30 minutes. But you will have those 2 students all year. Okay? Yeah. One of the things, oh, go ahead.
Is that for the 3rd grade level, and we still get 3 for 2nd?
No, we changed that. 2nd grade will have, it'll be 30-minute blocks as well.
Yeah, 15 I thought was hard. Because by the time they walked there
Yep.
and everything, it
Yeah.
was like, and settled down, some of them, especially
Yep.
the boys.
And that change was based on your feedback. So we do appreciate your feedback on that. One of the things that a lot of new volunteers are concerned about is the students that they're going to get. And one of the things that we have asked teachers is we have a level range that teachers consider the students that they're selecting to be within this specific reading range of reading levels. The reason behind that is because we are not expecting you to teach them how to read in that 30 minutes. You're there to listen and have them read, and so we are not going to give you a struggling reader and a reader that needs a lot of support. So please know that.
But I got a lot of those struggling readers.
You did.
Is that something new that they're gonna start? I mean, oh man.
That's interesting because I give them specific guidelines
I
of
mean, they,
it needs to
honestly,
stick with
I
that.
could tell stories, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If you're finding that, I would appreciate, and I'm sure Abby would appreciate knowing that concern is there.
That'd be great feedback for us as you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, thank you so much for volunteering. This is an awesome program, and as a classroom teacher, I loved it. So, and the kids do too. It's amazing that you're going to get more out of it probably than the students are. They still get a lot out of it, but it's wonderful. So thank you. Yes.
So if you do wind up with a child that struggles, what steps can you do to help this child? I mean, if the child really doesn't know the basics and just doesn't have that drive, what do you?
I would definitely leave that feedback for the teachers, and if they don't give you any suggestions of specific things that you can work on with them, then I would just get in touch with Addie and we can work something out. We can problem solve together for sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
you,
you.
Darla.
Mhm.
Let's see. Before we go any further about the logistics, I just wanted to give you a brief history of the program. I know a lot of you are returning volunteers, but there are quite a number that are brand new too. So the program was started actually in 2010 as a pilot program with the Rosholt School District by the United Way of Portage County. There were 6 tutors that started the program, serving about 11 children, and it grew every year because the program was very successful. By 2019, there were about 100 tutors serving 200 children in 12 schools throughout Portage County. So it's impressive. Every year, it's been very well received, and I think that's in credit to all the volunteers, and it's a great, great program. Because of the pandemic, as you probably know, it was put on halt for about 2 years, like most everything else. But we are really happy that it's back in schools this year. It's kind of been a rebuilding year, so we've been actively recruiting tutors to get back and help us get out into the schools. But there are going to be 60 classrooms participating this year in 14 different schools, and there's about 100 volunteers, almost. We're very close to 100 volunteers, so that's really awesome. So thank you again all for volunteering, returning, and new. That's wonderful. For those of you that are returning, I wondered if anybody would want to share, what made you come back? Why do you like it? What did you enjoy about it? Would you be willing to share with, yeah?
Oh, the connection you make with that student and the progress that you see from the first time you meet with them and sit with them till the end of the school year, and the changes in them. I mean, my first student could barely read when I first met with her, and by the end she was like, in a chapter book. She was so excited and wanted to read.
Right, yeah.
Very
Anybody else?
rewarding.
Yeah. I think I was a tutor in the schools prior to COVID for a couple of years, and I think, I really enjoyed meeting the students and reading with them. That was really fun. I also liked learning about the student in general, like they told me about their new shoes, or what they ate for dinner, or why their little brother really annoyed them. Or like you really get to know the kids, you really get to know them, and that's what's pretty cool about this program too, because you're building a relationship as well as providing these foundational skills and helping them, so.
Yeah, and a lot of those kids really need that.
Absolutely. They're all over, and it might not be the same every week, there'll be different classrooms, so that's where you'll find out where exactly you're gonna be within the school on that given day. You can ask the school office secretary for the location of the classroom, you'll go find the classroom, you'll meet the school teacher, and she will introduce you to the students that you're gonna be working with, and the binders, like the ones on your table, there's gonna be a binder for every student that's participating in the program with their name on them. So they will come with the student whenever you meet with them. So when you get your student, you're gonna take them to that location in the building, and I think it's always fun for let the student lead. They kinda like to be, the boss, show a little ownership in the school building. And that when you first meet the teacher, that might be a really good time to also find out where the restrooms are for your information, and policies such as relating to like emergency drills, that kind of thing, so just to be aware of. What else? Okay, so I guess we can move on to the binders. I apologize that there's not one at every table for everybody, but I will sort of hold this one up too so you can see. In the beginning, there's this tutoring tracking session. So you're gonna sign in your date and your initials, and there's a spot to say whether or not you are the original tutor or if you're a sub, and then sometimes the student that you're supposed to see isn't there, they're sick or they're whatever, so the classroom teacher will give you someone else to read with for that day. So you will just say if it's your regular student or a different student. And then, every day that you go, the teacher is going to write this mini lesson plan. So at the top, there are these specific areas like Darla was talking about, the comprehension, the fluency, and the nonfiction. And the teacher should be going through and circling a number that corresponds to what they think would be most beneficial for that child to read through or go through that day. And those numbers correspond to this section that's to learn for like lesson cards in the back. So I think when I was doing it too, I mean, you don't have a lot of time to prepare for these lessons necessarily, but you can just do that together, kind of read through it with a student and talk about the things that you're going to be focusing on for that lesson. That's just fine to do. So below that it says, please list the book or materials to use for the lesson. So every week the teacher should include in the beginning, in this little pocket in the beginning of the binder, a chapter book, maybe an article, maybe a few poems. It could be all kinds of different things. Something, a selection that the teacher feels is appropriate for that student. That said, sometimes teachers get really busy and they don't have time to make a lesson plan. So sometimes you'll go and there won't be a lesson plan. Has that happened to anybody here?
Yes.
Okay, so troubleshoot for us. What did you do in those situations?
Well, when I first picked them up, I always looked in there, and then I just asked her about it.
Nice.
Whoever the teacher was.
Okay.
And they usually have a little book with their own books in the class, so we would go get one of those out
Sure.
of there and then read that or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes they've given me their spelling lessons for the day.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Anyone else?
Well, I usually brought books with me.
Oh yeah, you had a private stash.
Well, yeah. That's what I do. So I would just have them read those.
Got it, yeah. I remember a couple of times, like, we would be meeting in the library, so you can just go over to the shelf and grab another book. Or, you know, the previous week, if you're reading chapters 1 and 2, well then, go to chapters 3 and 4. I mean, we can be flexible too and just note to the teacher, like, you know, there wasn't a lesson, but this is what we did, kind of thing.
Sometimes the kids will also know, it'll be like, next time, why don't you put some new books in there for us to look at?
True,
And
sometimes
they'll-
the same
And they're
book
more than
appears.
happy to pick up the books.
Right, That's happened to me too, like where the same book is in there for like 3
Yeah,
or 4 times.
and they're not so keen on
Yeah.
that.
But sometimes the teachers do that on purpose too, because they just want to work on fluency and have the children feel really successful about it. So that's always a question you can ask the teacher too. And then at the bottom of the form, to be completed by tutors section. So that's just a section for you every week to just write down a couple of quick sentences about what went well that week, what was a struggle that week. One tutor in the last session on Tuesday suggested that they always went through it together with a student and just said, what do you feel like we did today? What should we tell your teacher about this session? And then together they wrote that section, so then you kind of got that writing piece in there too. So I thought that was a really good idea. Let's see, what else is in here? Like Darla was showing you before, in the back, there are these extra kind of cards, activity cards that you can kind of go through with the student. Sometimes they'll read their section, you have a half an hour now, so sometimes they'll get through it really fast. So you can kind of do something else with the book, talk about the comprehension, or bring some of these activity cards out and try something else new with them. There's also this plastic thing that has a whiteboard in the back that I used on many occasions for games or motivation. Does anybody want to speak to what they use their whiteboard for?
The kids really liked when they had to write questions, or write answers, they liked to do it on
Yeah, they-
rather than paper.
That was my experience too. They love any excuse to get the whiteboard out, they love that. Yeah. There also should be stickers in this section, so those I think, this page, the one that's nonfiction fluency comprehension, we often use those to just, if on a given day we were working on comprehension, we kind of review that at the end, saying, you know, this is what we worked on, these are the skills that we talked about today. Let's put a sticker on that, because you did a great job with that. So stickers can be really motivational. For me too, I like stickers.
Yeah, don't forget about their stickers.
Right?
Don't I get a sticker today?
Mine actually ran out, I had to
Yeah.
buy some.
I had
Let's see, what else do we need to tell you? The manual that was on the table, there's one for each of you. There's some valuable information in there. There's a section on characteristics of 7 to 9-year-old children, just kind of some developmental information. There's a section on confidentiality, just a quick reminder that we need to be whatever happens in our tutoring session stays in the tutoring section, except for with their classroom teacher. Just to mention, like, we all like to take pictures of things. We can't take pictures of the students that we work with and post them. I don't think I need to say that, but I'll just say it anyway. So I said it. Okay. Okay, what else? Oh, somebody had asked specifically if Learn for Life tutors are mandatory reporters. So oftentimes students like to tell you things. They like to tell you the good things. Sometimes they tell you the not so great things that happen at home. So we are not mandatory reporters, but if students tell you anything that you feel needs to be told to a different adult at school, make sure that you share that information with the teacher or the principal, school psychologist, or if you can't find any of them, let me know and I will for sure pass that information on. So, any questions about that? Let's see, substitutes and absences. There are a number of people in this room and not in this room who have agreed to be substitutes. So people that can't regularly commit to a weekly tutoring session, they are out there, they are on a list for all of us to use if we need to. So if you are on vacation, or if you are sick, or if you know that you're gonna be gone visiting someone for an extended period of time, you can access the substitute list and see if you can find somebody to replace you. If you wake up on Tuesday morning and you're supposed to be at your school by 9 a.m., just call the school and let them know that you're not going to be there that morning, because we probably won't be able to find somebody on short notice, but you could also let me know if we could maybe, I can get there or somebody else can get there too.
When we signed up, if we filled out that we're gonna be gone, like I'm gonna be gone the months of January and February, you'll take care of that?
I will try to take care of that. Maybe we could try to do it together. But yes, if I know far in advance, I will certainly.
Yeah, because you had on the sheet if you knew
Yeah, yeah,
any absences.
right, yes, yeah,
I had an incident last year, though, the last couple of years with a student, who I thought we were getting along pretty well. I saw him at a basketball game one night in high school, and I really said, "Hi, how are you?" This Sunday. And I think it might have embarrassed him to be associated with a tutor.
sure.
Keep that in mind, but I don't know whether that's.
Someone mentioned that at the last tutor training too, like the opposite actually, like they were in the grocery store and one of the child came up to them and hugged them and the mom was kind of like, "Are you?" So I think you just have to read those situations the best you can. I think they dealt with it just saying, "I work with your child at school," or "I see your child at school," not necessarily discussing anything, you know, their progress, because we're not supposed to speak necessarily to that, because we're not assessing them, we're just helping them. So we can just say, "We work with your student at school," so.
Yeah, I had one student that I happen to know his mom, and she kind of, when she found out I was doing it, she kind of put two and two together, and all I'd say is, "Oh, I really enjoyed,
Yeah,
you know, reading with them, but I never, you know."
that our program doesn't notify the parents that we're working with them, but oftentimes the classroom teachers will just say, "Your child has been selected to participate in this program," and it's kind of up to them to, you know, provide further information about it. But as tutors, we don't have direct communication with the parents. Let's see, workspace, I talked about that already. Background checks, that is a requirement for being in the school district, so you should have already received an email about completing a background check from me. It should have come from actually Sterling Volunteers. If you haven't, let me know and I can get that information to you. Other things. RSVP, for those of you that are 55 and older, there is a very cool program in Portage County for retired and senior volunteer program. If you are a member of that program and you want me to have you be part of that list, please just come talk to me afterwards. Then we share that information with that agency and then keep track of hours that way. Let's see.
Can I go back to the background check?
Yeah.
Do you still need the school district background check
No.
then too?
This takes care of that requirement, yeah, so it's a little bit different than in the past. Yeah, you have both?
I hope. I already went on a field trip.
Oh,
So
nice.
the first week, but
Yeah.
school background check.
Other things, questions, comments, things I can answer? Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the background check, I filled out the information, sent it in, but never got any response.
You should have gotten a confirmation, I mean, I know that it's fine, but you should have gotten, everyone should get a confirmation email from them that's saying you're eligible, whatever, so.
Yeah. I just got a receipt from them.
I don't think it comes from you, it should come from them, it comes from, I think it's the advocates actually, they made it kind of as confusing as possible, I feel like, there were like a lot of different names associated with it, some people weren't sure if it was actually us or them or who it was, but I tried to put in a little blurb in there saying, it's us, it's real. There's another section, yeah.
How do you prefer to have the students address us, as our first name, as Miss Allen, Miss Snow? Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference, I think that's completely up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with is what you should let the student know. I mean, that might be something to just establish that very first day. You are, and you can call me, that kind of thing, so, yeah. Other questions?
So is this gonna be, once every week or once a month or?
So once every week, kind of like Darla was saying, so when you get your tutoring assignments, you'll get that from me, it'll be in an email, and I'll tell you what school that you're gonna go to, and how many students you're gonna see there, and what time that's gonna be. So every week from that second week of November through about the middle of May, you're gonna see those same students on that same day of week, okay? And with that email, when I send the tutoring assignments, I'll also send the school district calendar, because some of you will be in Stevens Point, some of you will be in Rosholt, so I'll send that school calendar so that you'll know when their spring breaks or Christmas breaks and things like that are, okay?
So if I chose to do it more than once a week, do I talk to you or?
Yep, I think you would have put that on the application, and then I would have had that information, and I'll be factoring that into my spreadsheet magic. Hopefully.
Good luck. I know that I had talked to Stephanie, and I had told her, I can do it more than once a week, excuse me, I'm my friend. So now.
That's wonderful, thank you very much.
I've got the time.
Great, and we've got the kids.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
And the teachers should be aware, correct, that if there's something going on at school, where then we wouldn't be able to meet with the child, that it's up to them to let us know, or they let you know, or?
Correct, they should probably let me know, and that would come from me.
Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't be a bad idea, as you probably all know, to just, when you leave or take the students back on any given whatever day of the week, to make sure that indeed they're counting on you coming next week too, because I know things come up, but,
Yeah.
but they should be letting me know, and then I will in turn let all of you know if there's changes to the schedule. Anything else?
You know, you said you have regulars and subs, and I'm being a regular, and I can do it more than once. You can also put me on the sub.
Awesome. Okay,
I
I'll
don't
add
do
you
it,
right,
I
I'll
don't
add you
do
right now.
anything, I have nothing going on during school hours, Lori.
Okay.
So, I have no problem. I will.
That's wonderful, thanks. We'll add you.
me as a sub, I was a sub.
Great.
We were planning to travel
Yes, yeah.
Is it okay to recognize like a birthday? Do we get that kind of information, a
I
birthday
think
or
it's
Christmas?
fine to recognize a birthday if you know that that's something that that child celebrates. I mean, we have to be, of course, mindful that not all students celebrate all holidays, so. And also, we ask not to give gifts. I mentioned that on Tuesday, and someone said, so we can't bring puppies in this year? Not this year. So stickers, or just, I think, motivation and incentives, like just your time and things that you do with them is kind of a great reward. Yeah.
I did, prior to COVID, talk with the teacher about bringing in a treat.
Okay.
But it was for the entire class on the last day that
Nice.
I was there.
Yeah.
But they also want to know that because there are children with blood sugar levels.
Sure.
And so they wanted to make sure that what time was I bringing the treat and what was it going to be, so they would test in the morning to
Yeah.
make sure that that child could have it.
Great.
So,
And I think the key there is just that communication piece with the classroom teacher, because they're going to know all of those kinds of critical pieces of information. So, yeah. Yep.
Is your program will provide a book at the end of the year for the students? You've done that before.
May is nodding her head. Yes.
Yes, we will.
These are the things I'm still learning. Yes. Yeah, in the back.
I was wondering, the substitute list, will that come like with the email confirmation? Where do we access that?
Yes, when you get the tutor assignment, I should have the substitute list as part of it. And probably the whole list of all the tutors, because sometimes you need to contact people just on a short-term notice or whatever. So if you prefer not to be included in that list, or you don't want your last name on that list or something, just let me know. Other questions? Yep.
We have the substitute list separated out into which schools you would substitute?
Yes, it'll be like a spreadsheet, and then it'll just be kind of like a tally of which schools they're available to go to or where they're willing to travel to. Because not everyone wants to go to Almond Bancroft, I guess. Yeah.
We would contact the potential sub on our own.
If it's like a short term, or a long term, sorry, if you know in advance, like besides those extraneous circumstances where you know it's gonna be a lengthy lengthy period of time. If you know, it's like the next week that you know you're gonna be gone, then it would be very helpful if you could find one on your own. If you can't, just let me know. No, I'll help you.
Yeah, because the last time we just, I don't know who led it, but we always just emailed her and said, I know I'm gonna be gone this week.
Yeah, I could definitely help.
Do you need to let the school know that there's going to be a substitute coming, or is that?
I would let them know that, yeah, unless, I mean, if you know the day before, if you could do that, that would be great. Although I'm sure the subs will have to check in and explain their presence there too, so we'd be covered that way. Yep.
Would be helpful if you know ahead of time, because students like consistency. If you, as their regular tutor, let them know, I won't be here next week, there'll be a sub, so that they find, because sometimes a new person just can.
Great point, yes, absolutely, yeah. I think children thrive on consistency often, so, yeah, having you provide that piece of information, I think would be really helpful, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
How about the dress code? Do you all have a dress code or?
I know,
Well, I mean.
pretty casual. I mean, teachers wear jeans to school some days too,
Oh,
so.
really?
Yeah, sometimes, not regularly,
that.
but they can wear jeans to school.
Staying
It's
away
pretty
from-
casual, I'd
Staying
say.
away from sayings on shirts.
Yeah, probably like inappropriate language,
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
you know, really short skirts, probably, I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Something when I take things, I don't have a printer at home, and then I sometimes, if I don't save it or something, and I lose it.
So you would like a paper copy, is what
Yeah,
you're saying?
I'm
Sure.
from old
Yeah.
school, you know.
No, that's totally fine, and your name? I will write that down right now. Lots of notes to this. Okay. Anything else?
Is it okay if, I add tabs to the job finder?
If you add tabs? Sure, absolutely.
I was just thinking if we're gonna flip through it.
And really, it's the students and your binder to work with, so if you want to do things like that together as part of your session, that'd probably be a great thing to do together. Like, you know, teach organization and reading and writing and all the good things that way. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being a volunteer. Have a great year. If you have any questions, anything that comes up, don't hesitate to call me, email me. Thank you.